and welcome to Ocular Podcast with Jeannice Samani. Today we will be talking about leadership matters with Barb Williams Hardy. Barb strengthens leaders. She's a visionary connector, catalyst for change, and global citizen of the world. Barb is an award-winning thought leader with a global mindset. She is known as a go-to leader who develops high-level relationship alliances that advance inclusion, belonging, and collaboration. She is committed to accelerating employee engagement and experience by unleashing strengths of others, resulting in better decision-making, problem-solving, innovation, and organizational success. Currently, Barb is the Chief Inclusion, Diversity, and Health Equity Officer at Stanford Health Care. Prior to that, she was a global head of diversity, inclusion, and belonging at NetApp and the managing director of diversity and inclusion at Oracle. She is the creator of Barb's List, which focuses on principles of achieving success and living an amazing life. Barb is acknowledged and awarded and honored by several awards, including the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Barb, welcome to Ocular Podcast.
It is such a pleasure and a delight to be with you today. Jeannice, thank you for inviting me. I look forward to our conversation.
Oh, me too. I'm really thrilled because leadership matters is so critical on the forefront, not only for history, if you will, because that is the foundation to business and technology, but really looking at where we are now and where we can advance forward. So recently, I was actually asked to identify myself as a leader. And I really began to think about being a leader and what leadership was. Leadership is a continuous process that's centering our interaction between leaders and followers. And I really would like to hear more from you about the mission of a leader and being a leader. What exactly is that? What is a leader? Can you define that for us?
So for me, this is what I believe. I believe, first of all, that leaders serve. Leaders inspire those around them. They influence. I believe the best leaders lead with their head and their heart. They share credit. They're out in front. They're inspiring purpose. And they're owning both their failures and their success. What I really believe is that leadership is a muscle and not a title. It's action.
So when we think about a leader, are we actually thinking about the people that are our managers, or is there a difference between leader and manager? Are they one and the same?
No, they're not. And for me, I believe anyone can lead. So I believe we limit it if we're just thinking about title, manager, I manage people. Well, actually, we do work together. And so anyone can lead anytime, anywhere. You don't need a title. In fact, I began leading through influence. I was an individual contributor. And even when I think back over my life to even when I was in clubs and organizations that I was leading. And so again, leaders are built. They're not born.
Beautiful. So a leader is actually implementing their agenda to align with the organization's agenda or mission, right?
So they're doing that, but they're also incorporating the strengths of their team, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a purpose, but then think about at the end of the day, our people are a strategic advantage. That includes all of us. So you may not be leading people, you could be leading a process, right? And so when you're thinking about the collective of what is the mission and what is the purpose, I'll tell you that we're stronger together. You know, there's a point of view that you have, there's a point of view that I have. And as we're able to share that point of view and work together and really think about not either or, but the both and, imagine the outcome, the innovation, the impact.
So the leadership is an action. I hear a call to action in that. And the leader is actually implementing this agenda or this action with others to create, to innovate, and to move the organization or the team forward.
Absolutely. I mean, that's another definition as well, right? Because again, remember, you can be leading teams or not. You're leading processes, right? You're leading a program. So you don't have individuals that are directly reporting to you. However, right, you're part of the team.
So, Barb, you had mentioned that leaders are not born. They actually step into their leadership given their attributes, their skills, their ability to be leaders. So as they head these organizations and they're entrepreneurs and they lead teams, they actually cast a shadow of influence. And you so eloquently pointed that out, the influence on others in their sphere of influence and also the employees in their group. So the shadow that they cast reflects their culture, their style as a leader. So tell us more about the impact of casting this shadow and why is it so important?
That's a great question. So here's what I want you to do is think about the best leader that you ever worked for, or perhaps they were a sponsor, or perhaps you worked with them, or it was a mentor.
Mm.
What I want you to think about is, how did they act? What did they do? Now think about your contribution and engagement. What was that like? Isn't it interesting that you still remember? Isn't it interesting that whether that leader was with you 5 days ago, 500 days ago, years ago, you still remember? So let me give you an example. I worked for an incredible leader. I mean, she was really about speaking your truth. She was vulnerable. And she saw the best in me. She opened doors for me. Even when I failed, she made me feel great. She encouraged me. And when I think about the work that I did for her, I had so much fun. It was hard work. She expected a lot out of me. And you know what? I more than delivered. And so when we think about the shadow that we cast as a leader, we have an opportunity to really unleash the talents of those that are around us. And again, this leadership is not just around a team or a process. We're leading all the time. If you're a leader, you're leading wherever you go. It doesn't come on and you flip it off when you go home. This is all of the time with anyone that we're engaging with. So my contribution and my engagement was so high. I just grew so much. And how about this? She inspired me and to be a better leader. So for me, her shadow is still with me. And guess what? If she called right now, while I can't pick up the phone, when we finished this podcast, I'd be calling her right back to see what she did. So now think about that individual, how you worked, how you contributed. But now think about what happened if you worked for a not so good or a bad leader. That shadow can be with you as well. And what did you learn from that, right? So again, the shadow that we cast as leaders is far reaching. In fact, one of my proteges was sharing with me that it also impacts your relationships at home. Because if you think about how much we work, that can bleed into your relationships at home. It can bleed into your own mental health and your physical health. So we as leaders cast a long, far-reaching shadow that many times we're not even aware of.
Well, you mentioned the iron sharpening iron, your leader actually pushing you or encouraging you or casting that shadow that actually allowed you to be a better leader or inspired you to be a better leader. So are there different levels of being a leader? That's what I'm hearing.
I don't believe there's different, I wouldn't call it different levels. Here's what I believe is that leadership is not static. So you should always be strengthening your leadership muscle, your leadership toolkit. What that leader did for me was that she demonstrated and modeled actions and behaviors that I then could emulate, right? So even as I'm learning and I'm reading and I'm on podcasts, right? And I'm engaging with others, you know, I'm looking at what they're doing as well and learning from them and adding to my toolkit. So the one piece is, and this is why I believe leadership is a muscle, is because it's not static. The way that I led last year is not the same way I lead today because people are different, or the process is different, or the culture is different, or the time is different. What can, you know, I know we're going to talk about some of the leadership behaviors, but I believe that those are behaviors that can transcend some of the experiences that we are in. Because while we're all going through COVID-19, we're all going through it differently, where our experience is different.
Yes. So dive into that. You were going to mention or alluded to how we are different, these various attributes, and how our experiences will all be different because of that. So speak to that. And also, if you could share with us this inclusion of leadership as a part of that.
Sure. So here's the net of it is that Deloitte Australia did a study, and it was a global study. And they identified 6 signature traits that are all interrelated and reinforcing that set leaders apart from their counterparts. So think about, even as a leader, I want to be able to differentiate myself, right?
Yes.
And the first of these is cognizance. And that's really about being self-aware of your bias, of your blind spots, of your triggers. It's meeting people where they are. And so if we think about self-awareness, you know, how we start the day, or perhaps something interrupts us. I know, for example, I'm in the car and I'm in a meeting and I'm speeding down the street in the meeting, right? And I get pulled over for what? Speeding.
Yes.
So I get off the call and then I get a ticket. And now, after I get this ticket, you know, I'm now like hyper focused on paying attention to the road. And so while when I go back online, what I'm doing is I'm sharing with everyone that, you know what, because this wasn't a scheduled meeting, someone called and I said, hey, you know what, let me call you when I get to the office because I really need to pay attention. Why? Because I was distracted, right? And so I'm just outing myself, but I was distracted on the call. I missed the speed limit deal, got a ticket. Okay. So needed to change my behavior, right? And made the decision that, hey, I couldn't really be present on this call if I was now, you know, wanting to make sure that I was safe by adhering to the speed limit, right? So these are things that we need to be self-aware of, because we may not be operating, you know, at our best self. And it's okay to let someone know that, hey, you know what, here's what's happened to me. And I want you to just be aware because this is what I'm going through. So one is cognizance. The other one is curiosity. You know, think about being curious. How can we be genuinely interested in others and the world around us? How can we be more open to different points of view, different styles? The next is cultural intelligence. It's really about building our awareness and our strengths of other cultures, norms, and practices. It's also understanding that the way others see the world is the way they see the world. You see the world from one perspective, I see from another. And again, that's that iron sharpening iron, right? So we're coming with different points of view. The next is being courageous. Listen, I'm telling the story. My husband's going to love this about speeding because he constantly asks me, am I qualifying when I'm driving my car? So It's humbly admitting your shortcomings and mistakes. Listen, even as we talk about, and I'm sharing about leadership, it's strengthening me. It's not about being perfect. Perfect is boring because it's not real anyway, right? It's an illusion. It's really about, hey, I made a mistake. I blew it too. And it's also courage is about inviting the contributions of others. Hey, you know what? It's risky. We're not the smartest people in the room. I don't care who you are, how many degrees you have. There's going to be always someone smarter. We need that, right? To be better.
Absolutely.
It's collaboration. It's modeling a speak your truth and a listening climate. It's making room for others. It's ensuring that we have balanced communication. That if I'm not hearing from someone on my team, then, I want to make sure that I'm giving them that opportunity to share. It's recognizing, we're almost all on the phone now. So, many times we would have individuals, in my experience, people would be on the phone and they would be in the room. And I believe that, listen, as a leader, it was up to me to make sure that my people that were on the phone still received that quality time with me that individuals in person with me had, right? Because when you're in the room, you can see and you can ask for additional time. Well, for me, I wanted to make sure that those who couldn't be in the room that were joining in had that additional time as well. And many times I would begin with people on the phone. Now we're all on the phone, many of us anyway. So all of us have that equal opportunity for collaboration, for contribution. Last but not least is really about commitment. For me as a leader, it's not going to be just about what I say. It's going to be about what I do. So walking my talk, that's what's building trust and respect. It's also about challenging the status quo. And so here's the great thing about this. So I talked about cognizance, curiosity, cultural intelligence, courage, collaboration, and commitment. When leaders are modeling these behaviors, so it's not taking on one and the other, it's practicing all of them, adding them to our toolkit, we're unleashing the strengths of the people that are around us. And what the Deloitte study showed was that there was a 70% increase in the experiences of fairness and respect and value. Our people want to belong. They want to be heard. They want to feel safe. So psychological safety and inspired. There was also an increase in quality decision-making, collaboration, and performance. So, for me, this really hit home. And it's something that I practice, and practice, and practice, and practice. Because at the end of the day, again, our people are a strategic advantage. And the way that we lead casts a long shadow. And so I believe that a good leader not only embodies all of these traits, and again, you're going to be at different levels, which is the reason why you're strengthening them, right? Because it's practice, it's practice, it's practice. But not only are we embodying them, but we're inspiring them in others.
That's amazing. So what I heard you say, or you said a lot, incredible insight. One of the nuggets that I pulled out was that we become master communicators. We're listening, we're bringing in everyone, even the people on the phone, to the table, and you actually are not afraid of failure because you're continuously evolving and growing and learning out of your curiosity of learning and being a better leader. And I also heard you say that you're not so much a boss, but you're actually teaching because you're modeling this behavior for others to see.
Yeah, you're a coach. Leaders are coaches, right? And here's the thing, we're going to fail. You know what I call it is failing up. If you learned, so then was it really failure? Because most times that's how we really grow, is through the learning. And that can be painful. Oh my gosh, I don't want to fail. I'm going to do my best. Sometimes it happens. The question is, did you do your best? If you did your best, That's all anyone can expect out of you. And so I believe that you either win or you learn.
Very good. And you know what's so funny is quite often people want to help you along the way because they're worried that, well, we don't want them to have as much pain as we did. We don't want them to go through the hardship that we went through. But again, as you said, if you go through a hardship, you're going to come out the other side with success. Beautiful, Barb. So is there one takeaway that you would like to leave for our listeners or our viewers?
Yes. So it was Maya Angelou that said this, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, is that people will not remember what you said or what you did. However, they'll never forget how you made them feel. That's heart and head leadership. So I encourage each of you to practice, 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 and join me in increasing our leadership muscles. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Barb. Your leadership it continues to inspire me. Leadership Matters by Ocular podcast with Jeannice Samani